All that matters in a chessboard is good moves. This is a quote from Grandmaster Bobby Fischer. A very good day to everyone. My name is Imazul Husni with the ID of 19,839 from Chemical Engineering, and I'm from Rook Fischer to present about our topic Rook Ending. Introducing the members of the Fischer Group. First, we have Ngoi Hui Yi to present the introduction of Rook Ending. Sangeeta will be presenting for when and how to use the Rook Ending. Next, Ui Wei Di, Tung Wei Lam and Aiman Hakim will present about the application of Rook Ending. And finally, we have Navina to conclude our presentation. This is the overview of our presentation. We will start with the introduction of Rook Ending, types of Rook Ending, the applications of Rook Ending, continued by the poster explanation and the conclusion of our presentation. That's it from me. Next, I will pass the floor to Ngoi Hui Yi to give the introduction to Rook Ending.
Thank you, Iman. My name is Ngoi Hui Yi, UTP ID 201900. I will be presenting about the introduction part of Rook Endgame. So what is Rook Endgame? It is also known as Rook Endings. It is one of the most common types of endgames in chess. The famous movement for Rook Endgame is called Lucena position. Next, I will briefly explain about what is Lucena position. Lucena position got its name from a Spanish chess player, J. Lucena, who lived in the 15th century. Lucena position is useful when you find yourself on the side with the pawn in a rook and pawn endgame. The best method to play Lucena position involves building a bridge. This involves moving the attacking king in a kind of zigzag motion towards the attacking rook on the fourth rank. The defending rook will attempt to continuously threaten check. However, if the defending king is at least 2 files away, the rook won't be able to stop the attacking rook and king from connecting, eventually leaving all the attacker's pieces on the same file. Coming to the principles of Lucena position. Firstly, the pawn can be on any file except the A or H file. Secondly, the pawn must have advanced to the 7th rank. Thirdly, the attacking king must be on the pawn's queening square. Next, the attacking rook must block the defending king from the pawn by at least one file. Last but not least, the defending rook is on a file on the other side of the pawn. To put ideas together, Lucena position works effectively if the attacker either promote his pawn to a queen or force the defender to exchange its rook for it. In either case, the attacker winds up with a decisive advantage in material. The trick is for the attacker to get her king off the pawn's queening square while also protecting the king from a vertical attack by the defending rook.
So, before we proceed to the applications of Rook Ending, let me first give a brief explanation of our poster. In the top right, it is stated that we are from September 2021 semester, and we have a very handsome image of Bobby Fischer himself under it. Below that is the name and ID of the members of our group. In the background, we have a beautiful image of a chessboard. And next we have three main pawns, which is the Lucena position, basic king rook checkmate, and Philidor position. That's it for the poster.
I am Sangeeta Tamilarasu. Currently, I am in second year, second semester doing mechanical engineering. So, let's get to this. This is Philidor position. The Philidor position usually refers to an important chess endgame which illustrates a drawing technique when the defender has a king and rook versus a king, rook and a pawn. Pawn wants to promote on f8 and this position is 1 if white is to move. and if it's a draw, if black is to move. So let me show you how white wins. First, white to play. E goes king g6. That's an important move to king goes to g6, though that in case that black gives the check here on a6. The white pawn can come forward, and now there is always checkmate threat on 8 ranked. So black has to defend it. He has to sit passive, and now white wins. Then he plays rook h7. This move is important, the threatening checkmate from the other side. And black does not really have a good way to deal with this king g8. And now white has this move, which is pawn f7 check. King has to go to f8, the rook on h8, and rook takes a8, and white wins.
Alright, thank you, Sangeeta. So, hi everyone. My name is UAD. My student ID is 190000432. So, today I'm going to present about the Rook Endgame, which is the application part. So, without wasting any time, let's move on. Alright, so the Rook Endgame application, okay, we assume that there's only the Rook and two Kings. So, in this situation, some of the player may get a tie and some of the player can win, which is the white side can win. So, let me share to you how to win. To analyze my chessboard, I am currently using Lichess to analyze the chess. Alright, so from here we can see the white rook and the white king as well as the black king. So in order to restrict the king, our first move, maybe we can move from c7 to e7. Alright, so once we move the rook to the e7, we can restrict the king in the three tiles, which is f, g, and h. So once we predict that the king will move to the g5. Alright, so once the king move even more further away from our rook, so it's a good chance for us to even push the king deep and also restrict the move. So now we can move our rook to the f7. So once our rook moves to the f7, the king might start to attack our rook, which is the black king might move to the g6. So in order to run away from the black king's attack our white rook, so now we need to move away, which is we can move to the edge with is moving the rook to the f1, so we can avoid the capture. Alright, so now the king might start to attack our white rook again. So now we need to move our white king to support our white rook. So the king might just attack. So now once the black king move to here, we can see it is oppositions of king and kings. So now the kings actually already eliminates the step of the black king move to f5 or f3 as well as f4. So now it is our good chance to move our white rook to g1, which is we can even smaller the tiles for the king, and it is forced to move to either h5, h4, and h3. So let's say the king trying to attack our rook, it moved to the h3. Now we can try to move our king f3. So right now the black king h2. So now we can move our white rook away from the black king because it's in danger. So now we are going to move to the edge. So once the king moves to the h3 to chase our white rook, our rook can move to the h8. This is because it is already opposition with our white king, so it's already blocked the 3 steps from the in front of the black king. So now as you can see, it's already checkmate. Yeah, thank you everyone. So now I would like to pass the floor to Tong Wei Lang. He will explain more on the second application. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Eddie. So my name is Tong Wei Lam, and my student ID is 190000388. So I'm going to continue with another example of Rook Endgames met in the real games. So the game is going to apply the Lucina position concept shown earlier in the introductions. And without further ado, let's introduce the games. So it is a game by Rice and Iron Snake in Hastings Challenges year 2000. But unfortunately, I can't find the pictures of both players, so I can only use illustrations. It is one of the games recorded in Iron Snake in his famous book Chess Endings Make Simple: How to Approach the Endgame with Confidence, game published by Gambit Publication. So without further ado, let's look at the games now. This is the position that they reach at their endgame phase. So in this position, we can see that black is blocking his own pawn. Black king is blocking his own pawn from being moved to the g1 square to be queen. Therefore, the core idea of the black side will be bringing the king out of this square, and at the same time, as we can see that the rook is here, so it will be a dangerous thing. So at the same time, black will need to bring his rook to the 5th or the 4th rank in order to protect the king and the pawn from the checks and the attack of the white rook. So let's see how the games go. So it's black turns, and black play rook e7 check. So let's play king d2, rook e5. This is a move where Einstein called it as a key move that allows the rook to be brought to the 5th rank and will be used as a shield to cover the kings later on. This move is also called as bridging. So next, white plays rook g8, king f2, bringing the kings up and allow the pawn to be queen. Rook f8 check, stopping it. King g3, rook g8 check. At this point, probably white is planning to make some consecutive checks in order to stop the pawns from being queen, but it seems like this doesn't work as well, because rook plays f2, black plays king f3, and king d1 by white, rook e8, e4, and at this point, white resigned because the black pawn is no longer stoppable from being queen, and if white plans to make another check to the kings, the black rook will be used as a shield to cover it. And if exchange of rooks happens, the pawn is no longer stoppable as well because the king is simply too far away from it. This game, so I pass to the next presenter.
Hi, my name is Ahmad. My student ID is 21001-761. So as you can see here from this board, you can see the white is in the winning position while black is in the losing position. It is because white still has the rook and the king, while black only has the pawn and the king. So here, in order for white to secure the win, white must capture the pawn before it being promoted to queen, because if the pawn is promoted to queen, it will be a draw or even lose for white. It is very difficult for us to capture the pawn without sacrificing the rook. So the first step is to separate the king from the pawn, so it is safe for us to capture the pawn. So you can see right here, the king is no longer protecting the pawn. So for the next few steps, you can see the white is trying to capture the pawn. So after the pawn has captured, it is easier for the white to win this game. So the next step is to make the black king move to one side. So here, as you can see right here, it is very important to make sure the white king is supporting the rook, so that when the black king threatens the rook, the white king still has the support and still protecting the rooks. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman. My name is Namina Mageshwaran and my student ID is 20330. Let's get into conclusion part. There is no better way to understand the power of individual chess pieces than by studying endgames. Whereas rooks spend most of the opening and mid-game penned up behind other pieces, it's the ending where they reveal their true potential. What is the best application? The best application's secret is there is no best application. The vital factor is how a player does apply the applications and principles in the best way and conventional condition. The word best refers to the player, not to the applications. Rook endgames are the most common endgames you will encounter. There are 5 main principles you should always keep in mind when approaching them. Sometimes, multiple principles can be applied at the same time. We are going to look at each of them. The first principle is cutting the king off, followed by rooks are placed best behind passed pawns, third principle is rooks are the best on the 7th. And the fourth, transpose into own pawns and games where possible. And the last principle is rook activity. So, it will be the best game if you manage to apply these 5 principles in the correct situation. Before we end, some words from Bobby Fischer.